Hello everyone, Mrs. Belo here in this video. If you were absent for the percent yield lab, I'm going to walk you through what you need to do to complete those calculations and what exactly we did in the lab. This is the reaction that was completed in the lab between copper and silver nitrate. So silver nitrate, this looks like a salt. In the lab we dissolved that in water to create a solution. And then we added copper metal to that and saw a reaction. These are the products from that reaction. The product that we're interested in is silver, which is the precipitate that you get out of this reaction. Copper nitrate, that's also soluble. It just turns the water, it turns the solution blue actually, but that dissolves in the water. So we're interested in the precipitate, which is silver. Yes, this lab actually yields silver. Not the best quality, but a little, you can actually kind of see some of the shiny flecks in the precipitate. So we had to do this reaction and get these two products and then put it on a piece of filter paper to dry over like a few days, or in this case, the weekend. So before we did anything, we weighed the mass of the filter paper. So that's your data provided right here. And then our two reactants. So these are the reactants that were used in the lab. We weighed them before combining them together. So then over the weekend, first of all, we reacted those two things. We got a precipitate, we got a solution. We poured that precipitate onto the filter paper. And then over the weekend, it's going to dry, and then we can weigh the filter paper in the sample, which I've given that data right here. So think about what you have to do mathematically. If this is your filter paper with the sample, again, your sample is the silver that we're going to be weighing. So if you have the filter paper and the silver, which is your sample, you have the mass of that. This is in grams. And you have the mass of the filter paper. What do you need to do mathematically to find just the mass of your sample, which is your silver? So make sure you do that first. The mass of your sample, whatever that is, that's what's going to be written down here for question number 4. That's the sample. That's the mass of the sample. Okay, that was actually produced in this lab. However, you still have to do your day 1 analysis. So we use 2 reactants in this lab, silver nitrate and copper. So you have to figure out which is the limiting reactant. So for question number 1, you're going to use your mass of silver nitrate, which was 0.015. And you want to convert that, silver nitrate. And you want to convert that into grams of silver. So this is a grams to grams picket fence. And then you want to do the same thing for the copper. So 0.022 grams of copper. And you want to convert that into grams of silver. And you will need to use the balanced chemical equation that's provided at the top here. And whichever one of these values here gives you the smaller amount, that's going to tell you what your limiting reactant is. And this value would also be your theoretical yield, which then you will need to calculate the percent yield, which, remember, it's the actual. So what you got in number 4 here, that would go in the top. divided by the theoretical. Whichever two of these is the smaller value, that would be your theoretical yield. That would be plugged into the bottom here. So divide those two times 100, and then what is your percent yield? Question number 6, do your best to answer this question. Obviously, it might be a little hard given that you weren't there for the actual lab. You cannot say human error is a reason. So what I would do is I would read through the procedure, read through what we actually had to do in the lab, and then try to think in any of these steps, where could you have possibly lost some of your product, which would contribute not having 100% yield. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Make sure you show all of your work for your picket fences for full credit, and your final answers for any of these values you're getting. If possible, go 5 significant figures.